Well, hi and welcome everyone. My name is Allison St. John, and we also have Christina Rowe here with us. And we are virtual leadership experts, virtual facilitators, and have backgrounds in talent development. And we are the co-founders of the Remote Leader Project, helping people thrive with remote teams because leading people long distance has a few different nuances, and we try to equip you with the skills and the knowledge that you need to be able to gap that distance gap. So today we are going to go through one question in particular that a lot of people leaders have been asking us now that a lot of folks have been in the remote workspace in response to our COVID-19 that's occurring in the world today. But before we do that, we just wanted to remind you of an important mindset to take as we navigate this time.
Thanks, Allison. Yeah, right now we want you to think about this is really about focusing on preparation and having backup plans and not adding to panic. We want to be equipping you with the tools to do leadership and management really well in the remote space, not just damage control. We want to work with people to really help think about how do you problem solve and how do you drive towards the goals and the outcomes that you want to happen as productively and calmly as possible while there's all this noise and chaos going on in the world, right? We all know that that's going on, but we also know that there's a lot of healthy approaches to being able to know that you're being productive in the meantime, that you're working on contributing forward. And so we want you to take a deep breath and think about, how am I problem solving today? Not that you're at a loss for being able to make decisions or at a loss for being able to control things. There are things within our control that we can be working on and driving forward. And that's where we want you to be focusing your energy, because it's going to help bring everything else into alignment, and it's going to make things like quarantine and social distancing a lot more comfortable when you also know that there are things that you do have the ability to have a positive impact on.
Well, indeed, and as a lot of people around the world have spent nearly the entire week experiencing their work from home for the very first time and navigating the logistics and home offices and just new routines, the conversation has started to shift into truly getting work done and continuing to move forward. So the question that we wanted to answer that came in today is this: how do I manage performance as a people leader during an emotionally or mentally challenging time? And so let's break this down here first before we answer. How do I manage performance during this challenging time? So this means is how am I ensuring that my team is getting stuff done? How am I ensuring that work is being completed? So Christina, help give us some insight in how to handle this.
Yeah. So my first recommendation is focus on outcomes. We have to let go of that performance is butt in the seats or time logged, because that's not really the best metric when you're talking about remote work in the first place, much less when you're talking about remote work where people are trying to keep an eye on their kids for who are having to homeschool at the moment, or that they're having to get up and change babies, or they don't have the extra care that they need, and that they don't necessarily get a perfectly quiet space during the hours of 9 to 5 straight through anymore. In this world we have to be that we're in right now, we have to be really outcome focused. We have to make sure that the biggest thing we're communicating is what our expectations are, as far as what should be done, what should be accomplished, and to what quality of work we're hoping to see. That gives people something to be able to achieve and even maybe even surpass at times. But giving that space to be on the same page and have those conversations is the absolute starting point.
Indeed. So just also know that the amount of productivity that might be occurring right now may be less than the standard. And that's okay. And hopefully you've been able to align with the larger strategic vision of what your organization is doing, and just knowing that this is just going to be a little slower for the time being. So help your teammates understand that you aren't expecting 100% of what was occurring a week or 2 weeks ago, but that you are being very clear on what it is that you are expecting. And when, as Christina said, that is outlined very clearly, you then have the opportunity for everyone to be working towards the same goal, and everyone understands what is expected of them.
I would say that's also a great point, that reestablishing what the new priorities are is crucial to be able to create productive forward motion for your team. You want to make sure that you're doing priority check-ins, because with everything changing so quickly, it may be that your clients or the people that you serve, their priorities are changing really quickly. So making sure that those priority changes are shifting and being communicated throughout your entire team really helps to make sure that people don't feel like their time's wasted. So why bother concentrating anyway? Or other emotions that are distracting that kind of give us those excuses to walk away from being productive or doing our work. So make sure that priorities are really clear and also discussed consistently.
Yep. And here's just one simple phrase that can make a big difference. When you are in those conversations as the remote leader who is identifying what are the priorities and where they're shifting, by simply saying the phrase, "This was a priority last week, we've changed priorities, we're moving on to something else," really provides the direction, and oftentimes a big sigh of relief to say, "Oh, okay, we are shifting priorities. This isn't necessarily something that I need to be working on." Again, just by saying this was a priority that has now shifted, and we're moving along. So making that very clear. Now, connected to this question, as we're talking about being results oriented and outcome focused in terms of how are you managing and getting work done, there are two other sort of more detailed components of this. So lower performers, or people who potentially are just navigating a heavier time and aren't necessarily producing up to the level where it is you expected, or someone that you need to help improve within their performance. How do you still be firm and operate within whatever performance plan perhaps you had in place, but how do you also then be sensitive to indeed what's happening? So Christina, what are some thoughts on that?
One of the ways that I would really encourage that being approached is to set the outcome you want to be seeing and talk about ramping up to it. Talk about, what, and coach your team member through what are the skills that it's going to take to have to get here, whether that's organizational skills or focus and discipline, or finding the right method of staying focused at home. For them, being able to talk about that, this is you still have that ideal goal for them, but then helping them find the milestones along the way so that it's a growth process that you're helping them walk through. That would be what I think, especially in this time, really important, is that we're not starting with, hey, you've been missing this mark for a while anyway, that we're starting with, here's where I want you to be. And let's talk about what it's going to take you to get there. And that's also a great time to invite buy in. What was blocking you? What's in the way? What feels like a roadblock or a huge distraction? What makes this a challenging project to you? And open up those conversations so you have the time for people to reflect and also buy into that growth process, and then start accelerating their skills along the way.
Yeah, excellent. And I wanted to just add on that in this time of uncertainty, and so with no matter who you have on your team and whatever makeup that is, everyone is looking for guidance. And so being sensitive to allow individuals to navigate the emotions here does not necessarily give us an excuse or permission to be ambiguous. In fact,
Mm.
we want the opposite. This time right now, in order to give everyone space to have that sensitivity to be able to navigate emotions, the more guidance that people leaders can provide with clear direction will give the space to allow individuals to feel the emotions, to take care of their families, and to take care of themselves. The more ambiguous we are during this time, the more repercussions potentially may come down the line also. So people leaders have the ability to give direction, and it will be received because we're looking for that. All of us want something that's just a little bit more certain right now.
Right. And that's not to say you have to have all the answers. That's also to say that if you don't have an answer, don't be ambiguous about it. Don't let it be that you're holding back more information that they don't have when information is kind of in this heavy overload time. Instead, be really clear, like Allison's saying, about, I don't really have a strong sense of like what that outcome will be, or I'd have to really think about it. That's a great question. Or, you know what, let me think on that until Friday, and then let's circle back and have a conversation about it because I hadn't looked at it from that angle yet. You don't have to have the perfect answer every time, but creating that clarity in your communication so that people aren't filling in all the gaps, because right now they're going to be filled in fear, is what you need to be doing to create the best outcomes for your team, as well as to reduce and mitigate distractions.
Yeah, indeed. So, all people leaders out there, we salute you, we honor you, and we see you for everything that you are dealing with right now. Just know that everyone is in transition, and we just are supporting you, are in your corner to help you transition further and throughout this. So, again, my name is Allison St. John. We have Christina Rowe. We have been working within virtual leadership for years now, helping disperse teams. We've been doing virtual facilitation, and so it is our mission within the Remote Leader Project to gather all of our experience that we've seen and the best practices and bundle this into information that you can learn from and digest so that you can be moving forward into your own remote leadership as we step into this new era of our working world. So thank you for joining us today. Check out remoteleaderproject.com for other resources specifically around COVID-19, as well as for other general resources with the skills that you need to be able to lead remote teams no matter the distance. Thanks again for joining.